Listen,
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
we know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
All right, there's no human being on the planet I would rather be talking to Trevor Plouffe. Man, I understand you do such a good job, and I know that there's a lot of former players who get into the media, get into podcasting, especially now. It's all where all the cool kids are. But to be able to execute and to do it well, like you do, I think, and I'm building you up right now. This is what
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but is it? I guess the first question I have is it what you expected it to be? Because you see the media from one side when you're playing, and then you see it from this side. Is it what you expected?
I don't know if I had a ton of realistic expectations when I kind of got into it. I knew I wanted, as soon as I got out of the game, I didn't want anything to do with baseball, and I feel like a lot of guys feel that way. And then I realized it's kind of hard to find yourself in a whole different, profession, and this is my area of expertise. Yeah. So I got into it, and I wanted to give a real player voice to the media landscape. And then what I've found really is I kind of lean towards more the fan experience of it all, and that's. And it's part of it's, the company I work for, John Boy Media. I mean, those guys feel like we didn't coin the term, but one of the first fan media kind of companies out there where we're, most of the people that work for us are just fans.
Right.
And really, that's who everybody, even the players, we're trying to serve. That's you're trying to entertain for the fans. So I really have changed. Definitely still want to give my player perspective, and that's kind of the value that I would bring to an organization like ours. But I think that's what's changed me the most is I really try to think about what the fans are thinking, what they want, and and I like the overreaction of the fans and the what word am I looking for? The passion.
Did you understand that when you were playing? Do you understand it better now?
Yeah, because when you're playing, you're so just invested in, I got to perform on the field.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're taking care of the fan base, and you're signing autographs, and you're out in the community, and that all is good. But really, your main focus is just performing on the field. And now that I don't have to do that, kind of get a more a macro perspective on just baseball as a business. And you got to keep people entertained, and I think that's been the biggest change for me is thinking that way.
Yeah.
You have if I was a player now, I would be so more engaged with the community than I was when I played. That's the biggest change.
So that's one of the questions I'm going to ask, because I was talking to Torrey Hunter yesterday about this, and going back, it was David Ortiz who first said it. Said when you're playing, more players should understand why you're playing, to whether it's to brand yourself or just do things like you just said, of just be curious about things, or get a head start on things. And a lot of times, and I don't know if you think this, but a lot of times players will be like, no, I got to play. That's my job. But it's a long life we live, right?
Yeah, well, you can do both.
Yeah.
And I think that for a long time it was kind of frowned upon, hey, you need to focus on this. And if you're giving attention to your brand or your social media, then that's taken away from the work that you do on the field. And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a player, you do have downtime, and how you want to, use it is up to you. I would just say that, I'm not even thinking about building my own brand. If I was a player now, that's part of it, but you can make such a difference in a fan's day just by going in and saying hi.
Oh, yeah.
Signing an extra autograph, giving away a ball. It means so much. The amount of people that I meet now that probably know me way more from what I do post-baseball than when I was playing, and they'll say, you gave me, I used to go at Target Field, I would get packs of seeds out before the game and throw them into the crowd.
Yeah.
And they're like, you gave me a pack of seeds. I thought it was so cool.
Amazing.
And it's just little things like that you can do as a player when you're playing.
Yeah.
That just, I mean, I remember Travis Lee was my first autograph I ever got.
Yeah.
And like, I'll remember that forever. And so you can really make an impact on, especially a kid's like life by just being like a nice person.
I don't want to keep referencing people I talk to, but as you talk, this is one of the great things about doing this too, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we talk about stuff and it just hits.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Phillips said, I can grow the game by 50% by just everyone signs an autograph for 10 minutes. And what you said is exactly that. Because those kids who were catching the seeds, you're their favorite person now.
Yeah.
Forever.
Just something really simple like that. I think it's, there's all the quotes about, I think it was Mickey Mantle who said, I got to play and someone might be watching me for the first and last time today. It might not be him.
Yeah.
It could have been somebody else.
Yeah,
An old-time ball player said that. But it's true. Like, you want to hustle out there, but also just any engagement with fans while you're at the ballpark just means so much to them. And now, like, I bring my kids to the field, and Andrew Velasquez, Squid, played for the Yankees, played for the Angels, and I brought my son to a game here, and he met him, and he's like, yeah, like he remembers him, and he'll never forget him. And it's just all he did was come say hello. You know, and it's simple stuff like that. And I think a lot of times as a player, you just get wrapped up in, hey, I got to perform, I got to do this. But if you take 5 minutes out of every day that you're at the park and kind of give back to the fans, it could just mean, and that has nothing to do with you trying to like monetize it or bring it into the business world. It's just, I mean, you're blessed to have an opportunity. Do you work hard for it? Absolutely. Is it difficult? Sure. But I think more players need to think, I owe that to the game and give back to the fans, just because it's really easy and it's very impactful.
One of the things that like you relate to the fans, you also relate to the topics. And by that I mean, there's a lot of former players who maybe get on a podcast or a show, okay, we're going to talk about this. But and I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here, but when I hear you, I can see that or hear that you actually care about it like a fan does, like a person in baseball does, like and talk about it, whether maybe it's the fan taking away the ball in the stands or whatever. But you can break down stuff, but and I don't know if you can feel that if when you get in front of a mic, if you're just like, let's go, like this is easy because I'm just love it.
Yeah, I do. I love the game and I love the fan bases, and I mean that's another thing I've learned as now that post-playing career on social media, like every fan base has very passionate people, and sometimes it'll come off as like almost too much. But I like to remind myself, passion is what kind of pays the bills around here. If people aren't passionate about the game, there's no game. Yeah. So, there's sometimes, does it get a little excessive? 100%. Yeah. But I think it's important to have that sort of, mentality. And it's going to be in any sport. And you don't want to just shun those people and say, no, stop, man. You don't even know what you're talking about. Say, okay, like, let me see it from your perspective. And a lot of people use sports as an escape from their everyday life. And I think that, it's just helping them bridge the gap between like something they see on their phones or the TV and then what's actually happening. If you just went and said hi to somebody and like just shook their hand and signed an autograph, you would change. Like if they hated you, and I hate the way this guy plays, and he stinks, and he lost a parlay of mine or something like that, because that's kind of what's happening in today's game. If you went and just like said hi to him and talked to him, you change their mind in a second, and then they become your biggest fan.
Give me the power ranking like of the fan bases, which
Oh gosh,
I mean, where that if you say something, like in the back of your mind, like it's not going to stop you from saying it, but you're like, okay, here we go.
It's almost every single fan base has those people, but the New York teams are pretty intense. Mets and Yankees have very opinionated fans. The Blue Jays have opinionated fans. The Mariners have opinionated. The Padres have very opinionated fans. I've been in tussles with almost every single fan base. And it's fun, like at first you're like, dang, this is a lot. And then, but if you just take it for what it's worth, and again, just realize that's all it is just passion. Then you kind of start to see it a little differently.
What's the subject? Sometimes you talk about a subject that it gets a reaction that maybe you're like, wow, that's getting a reaction I didn't expect it. I'll give you an example. we did Matt Strom, and he talked about beer sales. Like, we've never had anything like that. That was nuts. But was there something that for you, like, wow, I did not expect the people to react this way?
I mean, this year, I'll give you an example. Like, the MVP race in the AL is very contentious. You know, I always say, like, you can't have Ohtani or Judge fatigue. What these guys are doing is out of this world, and just look at the numbers. And we almost put them on such a high pedestal. Like, if they don't one-up themselves every single year, oh, he's having a down year, he can't win MVP. And I'm like, well, Judge, first of all, he's not having a down year. It's one of his best years ever. But people really think, you know, Cal Raleigh should deserve it because he's a catcher and a switch hitter, and he's hitting these homers. And that's been a big topic, because I still think Judge is the MVP. Take him out of the Yankees lineup, what happens?
Yeah.
You know, people don't think that way. That's been a big one. Shohei always drums up a ton of interest as well. You know, the big name guys, that happens. And then, you know, coming up will be like the labor agreement and stuff like that. Yeah, it's coming up.
Earmuffs.
So that's always, you know, it's, you kind of got to dance around that one a little bit. And I have a ton of I was a player rep, so I got a lot of that feeling still left in me, but I also do see the game differently now. I try to have a bigger, like, macro perspective of everything, so that's going to be interesting to see. I think this year was like the AL MVP race is pretty difficult.
Along those lines, we were just talking in the clubhouse, some of the writers, about the Cy Young, because Chapman, as we sit here, is 50 batters without giving up a hit.
Yes.
I don't know where you stand on, like, the relievers, because, you know, people forget Class A didn't have a good postseason, but he finished very high in the Cy Young voting. Where do you stand on that?
Where Chapman stands?
Like, in terms of relievers being Cy Young.
Oh, I'm in on. I mean, we call them high leverage innings for a reason. I mean, that means a lot. And if you're a team that doesn't have a good back end of the bullpen, you sure know that.
Yeah.
So to have a guy like him, like, in my mind, he should be a top 5 AL Cy Young guy. I don't think there's any question about it. That's another thing that people are very passionate about, is Hall of Fame. Who deserves to be in, who doesn't. I'm a big Hall guy. Like, I'm like, there's so many guys I think should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And people hate that. You know,
I should know this. Do you do I mean, I know you don't do a formal ballot, but do you do your ballot?
Not really. No. You know, we just talk, like, is this guy a Hall of Famer? Okay. You know, Giancarlo Stanton is one that we always talk about. If he gets to 500 homers, is he a Hall of Famer? In my mind, yes. Like, 500 is a benchmark, plus he has an MVP. But people will say, well, you know, he's DH'd a lot, he's missed a lot of time, but he's got postseason credentials, he's got the MVP, like I said. So, that's another.
I'm a big Hall
topic.
guy too.
Yeah, and you know, if you look back in time, people will say, oh, the character clause. I'm like, you go back and look who's in the Hall of Fame. There's a bunch of guys that probably have character issues there, and some guys that probably shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame are in it, and it's like, you know, it's a very interesting topic.
To me, there's too, not to get off on this, but, like, to me, it's too much of hypotheticals, too much of, you know, characters, you know, steroid, whatever it is. It's just too much of it. So we just have to sort of, like, okay. And you know where one of the things that I like to do with position players, because of the different eras, is look at top 10 MVP votings, how many times you did it, because it just shows it. I'm not saying that's the be all end all, but it shows a dominance.
Sure.
And then I voted for Scott Rowland, so that's going up. So.
But you know what, man? I love playing this game. There's 2 games I really like lists I like to go look at. It's prospect rankings, because people like to hug their prospects. I'm like, go look at the prospect rankings from 5 years ago. Tell me how many of those guys are impact players. It's like, you know, very low percentage. The other one is, if you go back and look at some of the MVP voting, even as recent as 10 years ago. Like, there's some guys you're like, what were we thinking? What were writers thinking? You know, and this was like pre-war. I think that like wins above replacement. Right. Not like World War II.
But that's honestly what's happened is that writers lean on war. I know as a voter, I know this. They lean on war now.
So like, there's an example, like Ben Zobrist had like a 9-WAR 1 year and was probably MVP 15. And Andre Ethier was MVP like 5. And he, you know, the numbers aren't great. But he had some clutch hits. I think he like got the Dodgers into the postseason at that point, and so there's storylines to it. But if you just go look at statistics and go up and down, just do it. It's so fun to do it, and you'll realize, like, nobody really knows what we're talking about. Like, there's like so many nuances with it.
But that's, to your point though, that's why it's awesome. Like, and also it used to be the sweet spot of nothing happening in baseball, the Hall of Fame stuff, but now there's nothing done in the off season, so we have to monitor trades every single day.
Yeah.
But the last thing is coming back to the podcasting thing or the media thing. Mookie. So I said, Mookie, like he loves anything but baseball. It's great. So I sit down with Mookie and say, let's talk podcasting. And one of the things he said was, it made him become a better listener, a better person, because when you're a player, a lot of times you don't have that opportunity to sit down. Okay, you asked me that. Now let's talk about this. And now you got to listen. Now you got to talk about it. And I don't know if that has sunk in for you. Not to say that it seems like you're a great listener anyway, but you know what I'm saying? Is that dynamic of your job made you think about things like that differently? Yeah,
I mean, we don't, and I don't personally interview a ton of players anymore. Yeah. We used to do that a lot, and I love to hear the stories. I feel like I had a good understanding of that just playing. I always tell people, like, you need to give a lot more credit to the Latin American ball players, the Asian ball players that come over, because life is not easy. You're in the big leagues, great, and everyone thinks it's all easy and A-okay, but they go through a lot. And I think that I've always had that perspective where, man, some of the backgrounds are so unique, difficult. Guys coming from Venezuela and like what they're dealing with back home at certain points. I've always just had a ton of respect, and I think baseball is the best sport in the world because it can be played by any race, it can be played by any height, any weight. Like, it's a skill sport. So you're going to see guys that are Jose Altuve size, you're going to see Aaron Judge size, and other sports aren't like that. Like, you got to be born to play basketball, you got to be born to play football for the most part. So the fact that we come from so many different backgrounds, I think, is one of the coolest things that we have going for us. It truly is a world sport, and I don't know. It's just I've always had a respect for the way people have been brought up. Even in the United States, I mean, people grew up so differently. In Southern California, kid right here, my experience in the U.S. is so different from somebody in the South, or the Northwest. Like, it just everything is so different, and when you get to be teammates, that was the biggest eye-opener for me when I first came into pro ball, was just all the different walks of life that you meet, and that we're all in the same position now, but we got here in a completely different way, and you just start to respect that. And I think you give a lot of credit to, I mean, I had it easy compared to a lot of these guys had it easy growing up. So I've kind of had that perspective for a while, and I think Mookie's probably feeling that even more so when he sits down and talks to people.
He said that because he said at that time, I don't think he did it, but he's like, this off season I'm going to learn Spanish. Yeah. Because I don't feel like I can be the true leader I want to be if I can't reach all corners. And clubhouses, this is why like the C on the chest for the baseball teams have never worked for me. For me, maybe like some guys that are outliers, but there's so many, to your point, corners of a clubhouse. Oh yeah. Different positions, different backgrounds, different personality, different languages, all of it. So yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
I really do.